Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful morning here in DC, and I got a head start this morning. I'm walking through the park, enjoying the weather, and headed to the grocery store to pick up a few items because today I'm going to make sweet and sour meatballs. So I'm going to get what I need and I will meet you back in the kitchen. I've got most of my things ready, and what we're going to do, like I mentioned, is make sweet and sour meatballs. Usually I would serve them with rice or noodles, but I'm celebrating Passover right now. So as my starch, I'm going to actually serve my meatballs with spaghetti squash. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried this, but it's a really great gluten-free alternative. Once it's roasted, you'll see how the insides kind of almost turn into a spaghetti looking like form, and it's very delicious, and I don't think should give most people issues with their ostomy, but it's something you'll have to try and see for yourself. What I've done is I've cut my spaghetti squash in half, and just like most squash, it's filled in the inside with seeds and kind of like veiny stuff. So with a spoon, you just want to scoop that all out, just like you'd be scooping a pumpkin. And then I have a Pyrex here with like an inch of water in it, and I'm going to put the spaghetti squash face down in the water. The water is going to help steam up in the oven and help it cook. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and really depending on the size of your spaghetti squash is going to affect the timing of it. So I would say start with like 30 minutes, see if it's soft. You might need to go to 45 minutes at 400 degrees. Test it as you go along to see when it's done. Okay, so for the meatballs, I have a pound of ground turkey and a pound of ground beef. If you want to do just turkey, you could do 2 pounds of ground turkey. And if you wanted to do beef, you could do that as well. In with the ground beef, I have here about 2 to 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley, 1.5 tablespoons of minced garlic. This is about a cup of very finely chopped onion. I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of matzah meal, and that's because it's Passover. But if you're not celebrating Passover, because this is a recipe you can make year-round, you would just use 1/3 of a cup of breadcrumbs. And then you always need a binder with meatballs, and that's what the eggs are for. So I've got 2 eggs. And we're going to mix this all up, and then I'll show you how to prepare the sauce. So I've got a little bit of olive oil in my pot starting to heat up, and I'm going to add another little bit of onion and minced garlic to this and saute them. And this is going to be the start of the sauce. So my onions and garlic have been sauteing for a couple minutes. I'm starting to smell a lot of the nice fragrance from them. So I'm going to add in my sauce. I have 2 cans of just plain tomato sauce. So we'll add these in. And then for the tang, I'm going to have this is an 11-ounce jar of cocktail sauce. And if you don't have cocktail sauce, you could also use chili sauce, like a jar of chili sauce. And depending on how much sugar you have in your diet or not, you can also add a can of cranberries to this to make it even sweeter. And I also am really into adding veggies into as many recipes as I can. I found that over the years my body has slowly adjusted and I've been able to eat more and more vegetables. So I'm actually going to add some finely chopped cabbage to the sauce to cook, and it's going to cook for 20 or 30 minutes, so it should get pretty soft. If this is something that scares you as an ostomy patient, you can leave it out. It's not going to make a big difference in the recipe, and maybe if there's other vegetables that you know that are good for you cooked, you could add those to this. Now I often find that the 2 cans of sauce and the cocktail sauce just isn't enough liquid, and there's always a little bit left inside the can. So the little trick to get a little more out of this is to fill these each with a little bit of water, swish them around, and add them back into the pan to kind of beef up the amount of liquid. For the cocktail sauce, it's harder, so I actually add a little water in and I'm gonna shake it to really clean off the edges. Get that in there. It smells really good. And the next step is to add the meatballs. So I have my mixed up meat, and I'm going to use my hands for this and make like golf ball size balls and just plop them in here. You don't want to press it too much. The less you deal with it, the lighter it'll be. So it's about this big. Make sure that all the meatballs are submerged. I will cover the pan and let it cook for 20-30 minutes till the meatballs are cooked through. So my spaghetti squash finished cooking, and it is nice and soft. When I pierce it with a fork, I can go all the way through without any resistance, so I know it's done. And let me show you what happens when you kind of scrape the spaghetti squash with a fork. It kind of just separates into these long strands. So I'm gonna finish just scooping out all the spaghetti squash, put it in a bowl, and it'll be ready to serve with my meatballs.